Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. The WBC has lifted its provisional suspension against Dillian Whyte and reinstated him as the WBC interim heavyweight champion. He is also reinstated as a mandatory challenger to the WBC title. But there is a but with the last part, and I'll get to that because he won't be getting a shot in 2020 by the looks of it. So the WBC statement on Dillian Whyte, see here on screen, status of Dillian Whyte, update. So this first part, I won't go through all of it because this is the detail with UKAD, the sample, etc., investigations, all that sort of stuff, and then leading to, in the second paragraph, the second sentence there, on December 6th, UKAD made a public announcement withdrawing its charge against Dillian Whyte, and you can find that on the UKAD site to read at your own leisure. So I will dip in here. It says, based on limited but detailed research and information gathering, including the WBC's consultation with two independent experts, the WBC found that there was no sufficient or conclusive evidence that Whyte intentionally or even knowingly ingested a banned substance with the purpose of enhancing his performance in any fashion. In light of the WBC's own finding and of UKAD's withdrawal of the claim against Mr. Whyte, the WBC has closed its internal investigation. The WBC is hereby lifting its provisional suspension and confirming its recognition of Mr. Whyte as WBC interim world heavyweight champion. Consistent with the WBC Board of Governors ruling at last October's 57th WBC annual convention, so this is just October a couple of months ago, interim champion Whyte shall become the mandatory challenger of the division immediately after champion Deontay Wilder's mandatory defense against current mandatory challenger Tyson Fury, with the mandatory defense against Whyte being due on or about February of 2021. So that is the WBC statement, which has come about 4 or 5 days after UKAD cleared Dillian Whyte. That was a day ahead of his fight against Marius Wok, and obviously there was a lot of questions that people had. What would the WBC do here? But also, because they named Fury the mandatory challenger while Whyte was being investigated, it is, as I said in a previous video, the realization of a punishment now to Dillian Whyte now that he has been cleared, because he was made the mandatory earlier in 2019 when he beat Oscar Rivas. But the WBC took the opportunity to make Fury the mandatory. They put that on the line there for Deontay Wilder and Fury, the rematch, which is going to be February the 22nd, 2020. So there is an issue of fairness or natural justice is what's happened here. Even though he's been cleared, the WBC has reinstated the interim status and the mandatory status. Is the WBC treating him right? Because if you go to Dillian Whyte's social media, he's retweeted a piece that Sky Sports Boxing had done, which says Dillian Whyte should be immediately reinstated as the mandatory challenger to the winner of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, says promoter Eddie Hearn. And he's not talking about some sort of February 2021 fight for Whyte. He's talking Whyte should fight the winner immediately after that fight. So if Deontay Wilder won, Eddie Hearn would like Whyte to face Wilder. But if Fury wins against Deontay Wilder, there is likely to be a rematch. And I've had a few questions in different comment sections about this. The WBC didn't install the mandatory until recently, but they had agreed to fight each other well before the WBC came along. So they would have agreed certain things in their contracts, which would include a rematch for Deontay Wilder, because at the point they agreed to fight and did the deal and said that they'd sign contracts, etc., it was just a voluntary challenge. So I wanted to sort of just clear that up, because there has been questions about, well, if Fury's the mandatory, surely Wilder doesn't get a rematch. But I don't think it's going to work that way in this case, because obviously the WBC came in well after they'd decided to fight each other again. So the WBC now lifting its provisional suspension, confirming him as the interim champion, as the mandatory again, the second mandatory. And I don't think Whyte's going to be all too happy with that, but seemingly, what else can he do now? What is there left to do? What sort of other avenues is there to take here? Obviously, potentially there could be some court action if they really wanted to force the issue, press the issue, given Whyte was found he had no case to answer from UKAD, and now the WBC has agreed with that stance. And as I said to someone in a comment section, if this whole UKAD situation had never arisen, because remember, it was a leaked case, this would have all happened behind closed doors with confidentiality, and UKAD most likely would have reached the same conclusion as it has. It may have just taken longer. But we, the public, the boxing fans, as well as the WBC, because this wasn't a matter between Whyte and the WBC, it was Whyte and UKAD, no one would have known about it. So his mandatory status would never have been in question. It never would have been provisionally suspended by the WBC. The WBC then would have had no opportunity to come along, swoop in and give a mandatory to Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder. So the WBC did use the circumstances Whyte found himself in because it all became public, it got leaked. They used that effectively against Dillian Whyte. You can look at it that way, I believe. And it's sort of realized as a punishment now because he has to wait a lot longer than he otherwise probably would have. So I don't know what's going to happen, but Dillian Whyte, it's all cleared up now. And if you did see his fight against Marius Wack in the intro to that fight by David Diamante, he actually said for that fight that Whyte was the interim heavyweight champion for the WBC. So obviously that's now been confirmed, but back then, fight day, wasn't quite the case. It was still suspended according to the WBC statement. They've only now, days later, come out and given Whyte the all clear and reinstated him. But what do you make of this? Is the WBC doing right by Dillian Whyte, or is this just what it is now, and Whyte will have to wait and he'll be fighting whoever he wants to fight in 2020? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.